This is the definitive early guide to medical gameplay. It'll surely be outdated at some point, but this should help you learn what there is to know about medical gameplay in Star Citizen in 2022. If you'd like to jump straight to the tutorial, the chapters will be listed below. But if you're here for a little background and understanding of all the features that encompass this wide-ranging medical system, welcome to the Tomato Guide series. Every game with combat has a little medical in it. Most MMOs have a medic class to keep party members alive, and even the unique space game will contain forms of survival gameplay because, well, space isn't nice. But Star Citizen has a way of doing things that push these games' aspects a little bit further than some others. The medical segment of gameplay is not all about risk and reward like in survival games, and it's not an afterthought game mechanic you might see in the casual FPS or MMO. It likes to do a whole lot of both. As a full-time medic, you're thinking about which drugs you need to use for which injury. Did the patient get shot in the head or fall from a height? Was there a concussive force or did they get hit by a rover? Are you bleeding out or have you just taken some body damage? How many times have you healed yourself in the last hour? Are you about to overdose? All of these questions have to be considered when helping other players, and it's up to you to decide how important each of them are for you to answer. Luckily, I've got your back. First, let's start with equipment. It's incredibly simple. We'll start with the good stuff. No. Not ships. We're talking about drugs. We're here with a broken leg. And each of these drugs is packaged up in a pen, used to treat symptoms for injuries like anything from impaired mobility, to muscle weakness, to respiratory damage, to concussion. Like I said, simple. But don't worry, you don't need to know all of these drugs and all of these pens as a basic medic. You just need the med pen, which has hemazole in it, a drug that stops bleeding and can resuscitate players and NPCs. You'll sometimes also need an oxy pen, but that's not really part of this guide. Each of these pens, by the way, can be found at hospitals, medical clinics, and some stores and weapon shops. Now you've also got your multi-tool attachment. This thing is useful because when you don't need it, you can disconnect the attachment from the tool. This way, as a miner, you can have a tractor beam attachment and a medical attachment along with your mining equipment. It takes up less space, which will be essential out there in the black, but you can only apply healing hemazole to treat health and bleeding long enough to limp back to your ship. This is the second method of healing, and to be honest, while there isn't much reason to worry about that space that you've got in your backpack, it's kind of the least useful method at the moment. You can't read patient information or administer any other types of drugs. That being said, if you'd like it, you can find the attachment at the medical clinics, hospitals, and stores which sell multi-tool attachments. The medical tool, however, gives you all the options you could need. Get injury information, blood drug level readings, recommended drugs, and manual input options. This is the tool to carry with you at all times once you get some money. It can be found at all hospitals and clinics as well. Finally, there are the beds. These beds are the last resort for all medical emergencies. They can heal your injuries, relieve your symptoms, and resuscitate you if needed. They are like super medics, but they aren't easy to come by. Currently, Tier 3 beds are available in the Cutlass Red, Tier 2 beds are available in the Carrack and 890 Jump, and only hospitals and medical clinics have what we call Tier 1 beds right now. These tiers are important, but we'll talk more about them in the next segment. First, let's talk about injuries. When taking damage, there are two different things you need to worry about: your health and your body status, or injuries. Both of these values are displayed on your HUD when they are pertinent. When taking regular damage from things like gunshots or fall damage, you'll likely only receive health effects and bleeding. But if you receive repeated damage or particularly heavy hits, you find yourself receiving one of three types of injuries: Tier 1, 2, or 3, with 1 being the worst. Each of these injuries corresponds with those beds we mentioned earlier, and will be healed by an equivalent or higher medical bed. Drugs and medical tools do not heal injuries, they only reduce the symptoms. So you'll want to make sure you have a bed close if you are doing anything dangerous. And you'll want to remember to keep a Tier 1 bed handy, as those are the only beds that allow you to respawn after you go down. And if you do go down, it's actually not the end. You can press the N key to spawn a medical beacon so that a player can come out there and find you before you bleed out. It's also a good idea to try and get into a party with your savior. Just be a little cautious. If you'd like to learn more about life, death, and the plans of permadeath in this game, see my video down in the video description. And before we move on from this topic, just a note, these injuries are a deterrent. While they are a very real possibility at all times, this is meant to be something you really consider when making decisions. These injuries do not come lightly. While I feel they are currently too difficult to trigger without getting down, their effects can indeed be rough. You may not be able to aim your gun correctly, climb up ladders, or even walk. If you don't take care of your health when getting repeatedly damaged, an injury could be the difference between escaping a cave and having to call for help. So stay healthy. In fact, let's talk about healing. So the steps behind healing yourself are quite simple. Let's start with the med pen. All you need to do with this pen after it is on your body is press the C key to equip it, and then the left mouse button to heal. Super simple. You can also hold the C key to select from different pens if you have more than one on your person, and you can heal others with these pens in a pinch with the right click. With the multi-tool and the medical tool, things are pretty similar to each other. You can heal others by pressing the left mouse key while close enough, or you could press the B button to dose yourself if need be. Both of these use their own ammo in addition to the multi-tool attachment, so make sure you don't forget to grab those at the medical store. And remember that the multi-tool goes even further in its capabilities. As I said previously, you have the opportunity to select which drugs you are using on your patient. Different drugs have different effects on the player, so you'll need to look at the various body parts on a player to understand what injuries they're suffering from. This is done by pressing the right mouse button and aiming at the different limbs. You can also use your mouse to switch menus and adjust readings. The main screen will identify the target's blood drug level and health level, while the secondary screen will show a further breakdown of the particular drugs being used. Each meter shows the expected drug level if you hold the trigger down, as well as the amount of time it will take for the effects to wear off. Your safe blood drug level is also noted at the bottom. Overdosing is a reality in Star Citizen. This acts as a deterrent to spamming healing in difficult situations, and encourages a little more strategy and preparedness. Players can be overdosed to certain extents, ranging from blurred vision to staggered walking to passing out on the ground. This is why the drug Resurgera is so important when you are manually balancing your drugs to heal others. The correct drugs for the job will be best discovered through experience, but you'll want to keep a guide nearby to remember which drugs to use and when. Or you'll be able to easily look at the injured body part and press the auto button to get the hard work done for you. I honestly kinda wish this wasn't a thing, but it's there if you need it. Occasionally, if you are a medic, you may also need to save somebody who can't move. You'll need to drag a player to a medical bed or gurney and place them on it to get healed. And finally, when inside of hospitals and clinics, you'll be able to change your spawn or regeneration location to that hospital, which will result in you going back there if you die. And you can ask for a medical room for additional medical attention. If this was a lot for you, I'll be releasing an illustrative version of this guide very soon on Discord and on my website, so keep your eyes out. But there's really no way to avoid it. This game is deep and complex, despite being in such an unfinished state. The good news is that you'll likely never have to worry about all of this. Most players will be fine with med pens or maybe even a medical tool. But as with many systems in this game, medical is meant to be easy enough to pick up for newcomers, but also deep enough that players can make a profession out of it. While this is only a basic tutorial of the gameplay and there is plenty more coming to the medical field in the future, you should have no problem staying alive in Star Citizen with this info. If you liked the guide, let me know down below. This is a new type of tutorial that I'm only just starting, with this being the first one, so please let me know what you think. And check out my full new player's guide linked in the video description as well if you'd like to learn more about how to play this game. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more tutorials and guides, and check out my ongoing giveaways over on my website, spacetomatogaming.com. I hope you got some good information from this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.